Good day, everyone, and welcome to our Pro Training Technical webinar featuring Bruce Studer from Gardner. Before we start, I'd like to review a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. Here's a quick review of what you'll see on your screen. To the left of your screen is the viewer, where you see the presentation. To the right is the control panel, where you can ask questions. The control panel will collapse automatically when not in use. To keep it open, click the View menu and uncheck Auto Hide Control Panel. You have joined this webinar in listen-only mode, which means you are muted. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end. Also, via the control panel, you can download resource documents our presenter provided by going to the Handouts pane anytime during the webinar. Later today, you will receive a follow-up email containing the webinar recording. With that, I'll turn it over to Veseris's Regional Sales Director, John Fraze, to get us started.
Thanks, Chris. John Fraze here. It's my pleasure today to introduce Bruce Studer, who is a veteran of the pest control industry and key member of Gardner Manufacturing, a company that specializes in the design and production of fly control equipment. Bruce has been with Gardner for 32 years now and has played a vital role in developing and marketing innovative solutions for food processing and food service applications. His expertise, dedication, and passion have earned him a reputation as a respected leader and an invaluable asset in the field of fly control technology. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Bruce to talk about fly control and Gardner Manufacturing. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, John and Chris. Today in this webinar, I'm going to be covering several different areas. But first, I'd just like to take a couple of slides and get you kind of familiarized who Gardner is. Gardner Manufacturing was established in 1928 as the original manufacturer of fly screens that you would put in windows and it would actually zap the flies coming into it. We received a patent at that time. Over the years, we've gotten more sophisticated and we've got screen windows, storm windows, and we've gone on to insect light traps for use in commercial, residential, and industrial facilities. Our corporate headquarters are down in Wisconsin, Horicon, Wisconsin, which is about an hour north of Milwaukee. We manufacture all our products in this area and we're made in the USA. We've got several patents that we've been presented with over the years. And like I said, we use the state-of-the-art facilities to manufacture all these products. With that, we'll get rolling with this. Listed here is the agenda that we're going to be covering today. A little bit about fly biology. We'll get into the types of flies, some of their habits, that type of thing. Not too much on as far as the life cycle, but just mainly just what each fly's characteristics are. We'll get into insect light traps, which will get an overview of placement and location of insect light traps and how they can be a good tool to use in a facility. Then the third step, we're going to be going into the types of ILTs that are commonly used and offered by Veseris in Canada and in North America. And then lastly, we're going to cover our new technology on our LED lamps. So with that, I'll get into the fly biology section. First off here, we're going to cover the most commonly encountered species, and then we're going to handle some of the life cycle. House flies are the most common species that you'll see when you refer to fly control. Then we've got the green and blue bottle flies, fruit flies or vinegar flies, and there'll be two types that they'll be covering in that, and that's the red-eyed fruit fly and the dark-eyed fruit fly. Forward flies, or what they commonly refer to as a humpback fly, moth flies, and finally fungus gnats. Life cycles. Flies of all categories undergo complete metamorphosis. That means they develop from the adult laying an egg, then they convert to larva, then to a pupa, and then to an adult cycle. This cycle can take, as little as 8 to 10 days and three generations in warm months, basically. So you can see how starting a fly control program or getting a handle on fly control early in the season is critical to control and continuing to keep control throughout the season. The control measures are basically easiest if you can get them at the egg, the larval, the prusa stage, the pupal stage. And this is basically because everything is concentrated in one area. If you can find the breeding sites, kill the larva or the pupal, you're gonna have a lot easier go of it. Female adults can lay up between 100 to 200 eggs per day, making the proliferation of a infestation happen very quickly. That's why in a lot of restaurants and bars, all of a sudden you'll see, well, I got a few fruit flies, and then if left unchecked, you can have an infestation in no time at all. And this cycle will just keep repeating itself until you break the cycle. When you break the cycle, usually is when you get some control measures. The first fly we're going to talk about today is the housefly. Like I said, housefly is the most common species and generally referred to as what the fly they use for fly control. Houseflies are extremely good flyers. They can fly 5 miles an hour, and the most species that the concerns of bacteria on the different studies. They breed mostly in outdoor and animal feces and garbage, decaying organic material. And the next one would be the cluster fly. They're larger than a housefly. They have a hairy body and they're a very slow flyer. Cluster flies are primarily seen in the spring of the year and the fall of the year because they are looking for a place to harbor in the fall, and they become active after they emerge in the spring. They have two distinguishing features, which, number one, they're a very large fly. If you've ever seen them, you'll say, holy smokes, that's a huge fly. And then they also have hair-like fibers on their backs. Now, the nice thing about these is they are seasonal pests, and they are extremely attracted to UV light. You put up an insect light trap, or even you can put a regular light bulb with a glue board behind it, and you'll attract cluster flies. They gather typically around the windows in the spring and the fall, and make it an easy pest to control. The green and blue bottlefly is another fly that is extremely attracted to UV light. Some of their main features is they have a metallic blue or a green sheen on the back. You can see in the picture there that that is one of the distinguishing features. Bottleflies or blowflies are going to be the first ones to come to a decaying carcass. If you have these in insect light traps, you're going to know that you got a dead rodent or something, dead bird, just in your facility, and that's the first place to start looking. Fruit flies or vinegar flies are becoming one of the most common pests that are most difficult to control. Everybody has fruit flies, and it's those one pests that they say, what do you got for fruit flies? How do you control them? It's very, very hard to do. They're prevalent in restaurant kitchens and supermarkets, and pretty much about any place where you have the fermentation process going on. The two species that you have out there are the red eye, which is the most common, then the dark-eyed fruit fly, which is a relatively new species within the last 15 to 20 years. Same features, except you'll notice that obviously the red eye has the nice red eye, and the dark eye is just a black eye. Other than that, they're very difficult to tell the difference between them. They are relatively weak flyers. They don't fly as fast or as easy as a fruit fly or even as a cluster fly. You'll see them doing more of a hovering type technique than you do, flying back and forth. They travel between the sites that they're foraging for food and between breeding locations. Fruit flies, they likely have multiple breeding sites, commonly behind back bars, ice makers, any place where there's a water or a moist environment. One of the areas that people overlook a lot of times is actually inside the lines behind an ice maker. This is a very common and prevalent area. They feed on any kind of a spilled substance that has, alcohol-based, vinegar-type based scenario, wine, beer, syrup, any kind of a sugary type thing. The forward fly or hunt fly, which is commonly mistaken for Drosophila flies, is still in the restaurant areas, but it's commonly in drains, trash containers, and this is done with, it's like rotting meat and vegetables. They're not as attracted to the fermentation process as a Drosophila fly, but they're still a very common pest and need to be controlled. One of the ways that you can actually monitor, see if you actually have forward flies, is to put a piece of tape over the drains, or if you have a big cracks that you suspect they're coming out of, put a piece of tape over it, and when they're trying to emerge to come out to feed during the day, you'll catch a lot of them at that point. Fungus gnats are relatively specific to areas where you have overwatered indoor plants. These are more likely in household or in office environments, where all of a sudden you'll have people say, you'll get a call and they'll say, we got fruit flies everywhere. Well, a lot of times those are fungus gnats that are mistaken as fruit flies. We have a product that for use in offices, which is our fly web, and you'll fill up glue boards on the fly web very quickly. Fungus gnats are extremely attracted to UV light. The moth fly or the drain fly is not so common. You'll see a lot of these in showers, bathrooms, not too much in any commercial establishments, but they are a common fly, one of the flies we need to look at. A lot of people ask the questions, are flies carriers of bacteria or pathogens? Well, there's been numerous studies over the years, but none of them have been published by government agencies. You'll have FDA, you'll have USDA do studies, and when you talk to the people that did the studies, they'll say, yeah, we have them, but we're not going to publish this as a thing, because you could potentially have a crisis or type of scenario on your hands. They're known to carry these diseases, but we haven't had any documented outbreaks that are due to flies. House flies can carry the bacteria on their feet and mouth parts. Every time that they land on a surface, they typically taste the surface they land on, and at that point in time, they regurgitate and they spread whatever bacteria that they have. House flies breed and feed in feces, garbage, a lot of areas where bacteria are present. Now, fruit flies are more of a nuisance than anything else. They're not really known to be a health or fly that is of common to carry a lot of bacteria, but they can carry bacteria. They carry it basically on their feet, and they do not typically taste the surfaces when they land. Some general habits of house flies and flies in general. Flies are active primarily during the daylight days, most active at dawn and dusk when they're just waking up, or at dusk when they're looking for a place to harbor for the evening. Houseflies in particular will harbor typically high in rooms up toward the light or areas where they're looking for warmth. Flies can travel up to 25 miles following an odor. So if you have situations where you have open doors, and there's in a bakeries especially, flies will detect that, and they'll be coming to that odor. Flies generally forage for food at about 3 feet or down to the floor level. Most of the food that's dropped in a food processing plant or even in a restaurant, obviously with gravity, it's going to fall to the floor, and that's where your flies are going to be. Flies do not like airflow or drafts. So when you're placing insect light traps or other devices, typically try to place them out of the line of airflow where the flies are going to take a area that they can rest in. This little tidbit is I learned a number of years ago by talking to people at the USDA, and when they're observing flies in their rooms, when the flies enter a room, they go counterclockwise. And over the years, I've observed this, and it's actually a true fact. Flies travel along the walls, searching for food. That's why a lot of the manufacturers, including us, manufacture corner-mounted insect light traps. Flies will go down along a wall, and they'll take a 90-degree turn and go in a different direction. But they use the wall as in a facility as a navigational type guideline. Flies like to land on contrasting surfaces. Whenever you see a fly out in the wild or on your car or even in the office, you kind of notice that they land on an edge, not just landing right flat on your desk or something like that. This is because flies have a compound eye, and their eyes are focused on looking for variations of light. Flies' priorities are: number one, they're constantly foraging for food; number two, sex or breeding; and number three, they sleep at night. They are day flyers. What can you do as a pest control operator? Well, one of the first things to do is like in any pest control situation is inspection. Inspect the areas, locate the breeding site to find out what's actually happening. Treat the breeding sites, and the breeding sites are typically going to be exterior sites, trash compactors, areas where there's a lot of moisture or decaying matter. These are real easy to treat with residual chemicals that you can't use inside. Number four is implement preventative measures. Within the pest control industry, this is like I said, the residuals, implementing insect light traps on interior areas, and the fifth one would be to monitor and record what you're doing. This fifth feature is probably one of the most important, so that you can develop a good relationship between yourself and your customer. Within facilities, whether it's a restaurant, industrial plant, food processing plant, we typically define 3 zones. The first zone is areas exterior or refuge areas exterior. Flies are going to be present. This is where baiting, residual surface applications are keys for the control. If you can eliminate flies at this area, it's going to make the interior project a lot easier. You cannot skip zone 1 to try to get rid of the flies. Exterior insect light traps, we have 2 models that we manufacture for use outdoors. You hang them 15 to 25 feet away from the dumpsters, and in general, in some areas, if you get them out of the elements and in a protected area, they can do quite good for controlling flies. The zone 2 is your entry points: warehouse dock doors, any of the external doors, that type of thing. where this area is key for control. Insect light traps are the primary method for control in this region. And depending on the accounts, use the ILT zappers for the back of the house in the dock and the shipping areas. Then the third zone is the interior or the sensitive food handling areas. In restaurants, it's the kitchen and the actual restaurant where the customers are eating area. Here again, light traps on interior are the primary method for control. You do have some products out there available, are residual products that you can use for wipe down in windows and that type of thing, which are very effective if it's but you have to read the label to see if they're registered for indoor use. Typically, you use the decorative ILTs for the customer areas or where there's going to be sensitive areas where you don't want people to know that you've got a fly problem. And the commercial areas or ILTs in the food processing areas where you want to be have a larger or more control. The goal in zone 3 is total fly prevention and elimination. Now, this is the area where we kind of specialize in, and it's in the insect light traps. Some people call them bug zappers, fly lights, insect lights, or bug lights. Well, the common term that is typically used by health inspectors, regulatory agencies is insect light trap or ILTs. The ILTs are a monitoring device that can be used to aid control and detect changes in the environment that's causing the insect issues. Now, they're not a foolproof 100% device that you install insect light trap, you're going to get automatic control. Sanitation issues within facilities are probably the most prevalent and the best thing that they can do to get control. There's two different styles that have been prevalent over the years in the insect light trap industry. Adhesive or glue board type models and electric grid or electrocuting models. When I first started here about 30 years ago, the adhesive glue board models were just beginning. Everything was bug zappers or electric grid models. Well, the proliferation of glue boards has been phenomenal over the last 30 years. People are more sensitive to, they say exploding insect parts, contamination, that type of thing, but the electric grid models still have a place in fly control if you're in areas where there are no open food or in warehouse situations where you don't need to monitor them or even maintain them on a weekly / monthly basis. Empty the trays, and that's pretty much all you have to do. The two different areas that you look for in control are sensitive areas, which we define as anything where there's open food or potential for contamination. And then you have the non-sensitive areas that would be warehouse areas, back docks, external trash compactor areas where the contamination issues is not as prevalent. Insects are attracted to light. Insects use the light to navigate just the same as us. However, studies have been done over the year that insects see between 300 and 650 nanometers. The nanometer is a measurement on the light spectrum that is gauged whether the different colorations. Optimum light for attracting insects falls between 350 and 370 nanometers. At this level, we don't see that type of light. Only the flies or flying insects do. That's why you see a lot of times they'll go to the light in a window that's the UV coming through it that they're attracted to. Advantages of insect light traps. One of the first ones is you can basically sustain an effective control between service visits, whether it be a monthly or bi-weekly. Insect light traps are a great tool to capture and contain flying insects that could contaminate open food products. They also, by using them, you get to limit the use of hazardous chemicals and the development of insect resistance. In agricultural areas where you use a lot of chemicals to get rid of flies, you can establish resistance in a fly population in as little as 1 to 2 months. So insect light traps help in combating resistance from insecticide use. They're effective against pretty much all flying insects, but the most ones that are concerns to human houses, like we covered earlier, are house flies, fruit flies, cluster flies, fungus flies, and some of the other things. People ask me questions, well, can you use insect light traps for monitoring Indian meal moths in plants where they're stored product pests? They are, but insect light traps are not the primary focus at those levels, but meal moths, beetles, that type of things are attracted to the same UV light that flies are. And the biggest thing is with insect light traps is they provide a 24-hour control. We recommend, and so that all the manufacturers that make insect light traps, that you leave light traps on for the 24-hour period. There's no need to turn them off in the evening. Let them go 24 hours. They're made to operate that way. Some of the general guidelines in insect light trapment placements are install these in areas where you have high insect activities, inside doorways, next to interior trash areas and docks. One of the things that you want to do is try to place insect light traps 10 to 20 feet inside of a doorway. When a fly comes into a facility, it typically takes 10 to 15 feet for them to acclimate on where they're actually at. If you're placing the insect fly traps right next to the doors, a lot of times you'll miss the flies that are going into the building and capture them as they're trying to leave the building later. The objective is to try to trap these flies as quickly as you can when they enter the facility. You want to aim the UV light into the building so that it can't be seen from the outside. You don't want to attract those insects that are coming in from the outside. Rule of thumb below, try to get the inside insects out, not the outside insects in. In food processing areas, the typical placement is about 50 to 60 feet apart. Locate them at the end of corridors, areas where you have a door leading to another part of the facilities are key areas. People often ask, well, how high should you place these insect light traps? A lot of it has to do with the ease of servicing, but like we said earlier, the lower the better is what you need to strive for. The center of the traps are typically, we recommend placing just below eye level. Flies do spend most of their time low foraging for food, so if you place a light trap that's like 10 feet up in the air, you're not going to get the flies that are usually active during the day. You're going to get a lot of night flyers, and if you have traps up there, start to notice that how many actually flies that are concerned do I have in there. A lot of the small insects, the gnats, mosquitoes, that type of thing, really are not as prevalent concerns to food safety as the house flies or common flies. Selling insect light traps. It's becoming more and more of a part of the pest control operators' agendas. Learn as much as you can about fly control, flies, make yourselves experts in the fly control area. A lot of it that I've learned over the years is just by attrition. It says just read, study, observe, that type of thing. Need to include insect light traps and fly controls measures in every proposal. Technicians are missing out opportunities when they don't have this. I know a lot of people say, well, fly control, it's pretty hard, but it's becoming more and more commonplace in United States and in Canada. Europe, if you're in Europe, fly control is required in a lot of places, and it's every place you go over there you see fly control. So in the United States, Canada, fly control is a great way to have residual income for your company. If you see flies, you need to have fly control. It's pretty much simple as that. The areas that you can do it is exterior baiting, residual trays, spray treatments, and exclusion services. All those are common within the pest control industry. The next section we're going to get into is Gardner's line of insect light traps. We kind of pride ourselves on manufacturing insect light traps from input from customers, and we take those ideas, convert them into innovative measures to do fly control. Some of the features we look at when designing an insect light trap is they're easy to install, easy to service. All of our lights come standard with safety coated lamps. You don't have to differentiate between a regular lamp or a safety lamp. All of ours are standard with safety coated, FEP coated lamp, which FEP is the standard in insect lamps. It allows the UV to be emitted at about 98% of a regular glass bulb without coating. We try to keep our light traps at a good value. We pride ourselves in having them priced so that everybody can afford them, which for you, the pest control operator, lower cost, faster server times, cost savings, that all results in increased profits. And one of the things we pride on is they're made in USA. Next section, we're going to go into the different designs of insect light traps. We have the adhesive board models, and 3 different categories that we have is pretty much the decorative or wall sconce type scenarios, portable or direct plug-in, commercial, and industrial adhesive boards. Then you have the electric grid models, which are categorized in the commercial, and that's basically, or industrial, and that's basically just what size are they? Are they the 2-foot size, or are they the large 4-foot units? In the decorative areas, these are typically used in sensitive areas where they want to be discreet, an attractive appearance is needed. Right now, we manufacture 6 different models of sconces out there. All of them are designed the same way. They have the glue boards, trap the flies. You don't see the glue boards, they're all concealed in these models, but the sconces are a very effective means to capturing insects in restaurants and in discrete areas. They range from 30 watts with 2 15-watt bulbs all the way up to 50 watts in our WS95 and WS225 thing. The 50-watt models are very good in controlling flies, as the UV output on those has been shown to be very, very good. The WS85 is our most popular and value price model. It also does good at controlling, but it's typically used more as a monitor as opposed to a control measure. Our iFly Accent, we developed that 2 years ago to look totally different than anything else in the marketplace. Typically, you've seen the sconces are of the V-shaped sconces. We developed that so that you cannot see the light at all. The glue board is hidden behind the front panel. You open up the panel and the glue board is exposed right there. We have these models in various different colors, typically white, black, stainless steel, and a gold vein coloration. Most of our sconces, these are the 2 feature sconces that we sell the most of, the WS95 and WS85. About 2 years ago, we received a patent on a self-leveling mounting bracket. Typically, prior to that, you had to line up key slots in the back of the unit, make sure that you had those slots on the wall level or parallel to each other to keep the light from looking kind of wonky or off center. Well, we developed a little bracket that you mount the bracket with the top screw. The level is already in place when you get the unit. Level it, put the bottom screw in, take the level out. On the back of the unit, there are two little slots that you just slide the unit over the top of it, and your unit is level. Very quick and easy installation. This feature has become very popular, and the people that are installing them love it. They can install one of these insect light traps in less than 5 to 10 minutes. Very easy, very, very convenient. We are incorporating this feature in most of our wall-mounted insect light traps. The next area is our compact or portable type models. In areas where you don't have a lot of wall space, behind bars, in kitchens, that type of thing, there's a need for small insect light traps and a portable type features. One of the models that we came out with about 2 or 3 years ago is our ATMX 30. It is small, 215 watt bulbs in it. It's open on two sides, so you have 360-degree attraction. We also have slots on the ends of it so that when flies are flying in pretty much any direction, they can see the UV light. Our fly web, which we sell a ton of these year over year. These are direct plug-ins for residential, restaurants, bars, underneath bars in health facilities. These work phenomenally well. We received a patent in 2000 on this light trap, and over the past 24 years, we were relatively the only ones that could make it. Now you can buy the similar trap via Amazon or something like that coming in from China everywhere. But what we have found is this fly web, because we use a 9-watt bulb and a lot of the newer ones use very small LEDs, that these are still the most effective lights for actually capturing house flies, fruit flies, that type of light. As you can see by the picture, they're very small. They're about 11 inches tall, 3.5 inches wide, and they plug directly into an outlet. And these are very value priced. Commercial applications, these are designed for basically the walls of the kitchen prep areas or in open food areas where you don't want a big, huge industrial light. We developed a light last year for Viceris in Canada, which is the Viceris Impact. This model, very effective. It has a very large blue board in the back of it and powered by two 15-watt bulbs. One of the nice features of this unit is we incorporated our glue board roller guide system, where when you insert the glue boards, they go underneath two little like pizza wheels, and the glue does not get stuck to the bulbs or the units. A lot of other units just have tracks on it, and it makes it a lot easier to install the glue board. We received a patent on this feature several years ago, and a lot of people just like doing it. The other features on this is the front panel on the Viceris Impact folds down, making it very easy to install. The model that you see there, they actually installed that upside down when we did it, but that front panel just flips down and making the glue board very easy to install and remove. This model is available only through Viceris. No other manufacturer or distributor in Canada has access to it, so contact your Viceris rep for this one. This model is available both in fluorescent and in LED. If you have this currently, we have, and I'll be showing this in a few more slides, of our LED lamps. They are compatible to retrofit into units that have magnetic ballast in them. Industrial models for use in like food processing plants, hospital back rooms where they want sanitation is key. We have a model that is, or two models, are iFly 65 and iFly 40s. These are great models. They have waterproof lamp holders on them, making them good for use in washdown type areas. Very attractive, very easy to service. You open the door of these, the glue board is on the interior of the door. You don't have to worry about the glue boards getting stuck on the lamps or the unit, because they're right there in the door, showing in that picture on the right hand side. One of the last units I'm going to show today is our RG1002 series. This is both corner mount and wall mounted. We have two different styles of this: a 4-foot version, which is for use in warehouses, food facilities, and then our 2-foot version, which utilizes two 20-watt bulbs as opposed to two 40-watt bulbs. These units are insect electric grid models, or zappers as people commonly call them, and they are used primarily in areas where there's non-food or the backroom type areas. Our new technology, this is LED lamps. We've been trying to develop an LED lamp for the past 20 years, and we never could really get it right. But we started out a long time ago, and our methodology was we took a 15-watt bulb, sent it off to a testing lab, and we wanted to know what UV outputs were there, what the nanometer ranges are. Then we came back and we have duplicated all the nanometer ranges within a UV bulb. UV bulb has primarily three different types of nanometer ranges: 365, 350 area. They have another peak at 450 to 430, and then another peak which is in the green range up around 530. We haven't had any definitive studies, but typically in other studies that we've seen, this is where they say the small flies or the fruit flies are attracted to, is up in that green area. The nice thing about our LED lamp is that you can retrofit this to existing IoTs. If you have a unit that has a magnetic or starter in it, all you do is you take the starter out, put our starter in, and put our bulb right in place. The other thing is this can be direct 110 wired, just like any other bulb. Right now they're available in 18-inch. The 24-inch version will be available in about 2 to 3 weeks. And any of our insect light traps that we manufacture in the 18-inch model can be retrofitted or actually purchased with LED bulbs as an OEM feature from us. We'll be coming out with a complete product line and product announcement in the next week or two on our LED bulbs. One thing I would like to mention here, and this, you need to get this through your Viseris rep, that anytime that whether you're on our website or if you see a light that you'd like to get a sample of it to see if it's a light that you'd like to start using in your company, contact your Viseris rep. They will get you a free sample, or they'll send us an email. We'll send it directly to you. LED lamps are going to be prevalent coming up. I will make the statement right now that there is no LED lamps that are more effective than a fluorescent bulb. We've got ours to be about 90% as effective, but the fluorescent bulbs are definitely more effective. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, what's the legislation going to be? Aren't you going to have to use LED bulbs at the end of the year? And the question to that is, in the United States and so far in Canada, there are no directives or regulations that make fluorescent bulbs banned. The ban is strictly in Europe and in the EU at this time. In the United States, there isn't even any legislation that we can find that is even on the horizon. Fluorescent bulbs are going to be available in the United States for the foreseeable future, and in Canada as far as we know. But we are making LEDs available, and over time we'll make them as effective as fluorescent bulbs. For reference guides or promotional literature, contact your Veseris reps. They have access to little catalogs that we manufactured for them. You can download some of the handouts on today's presentation, or if you want to visit our website at gardnerflylights.com, there's a tab that you can click, and we'll send you direct from here any of the brochures on that directly to you. One last thing is, if you have a need or you want to customize literature, we can put the company logo on any of our literature that we manufacture. We'll take the Gardner name off of it, and you could have a customized, personalized piece of literature that would show the fly lights. Here again, get with the Veseris rep. If you do want customized brochures, this typically takes a week to 10 days to get something like this done. So that about wraps up my presentation. I thank you very much for listening, and Chris will now get into the questions section.
Hey, Bruce, thanks for presenting such great informative information. So let's go and see what questions have been submitted. The first one's asking, how do ILTs support effective pest control between service visits and limit the use of hazardous chemicals?
Well, like I said in the presentation, the ILTs, they do provide a 24-hour control within a plant, and continuous control actually. It also reduces the need for chemicals within that when you have another means to attract flying insects.
Thanks, Bruce. Another question is asking, what are the benefits of offering ILT services and promoting fly control as part of a comprehensive pest management program?
Well, you know, as a pest control operator, your job or the objective is to eliminate all pests, and you really just can't say, well, I just want to do rodent control, because within a facility, whether it's a restaurant or a food processing, the key is to keep it as clean and sanitary as you can. So flies, flying insects, they're known to be carriers of pathogens, of bacteria. So offering a fly control services, well, as a pest control operator, number one, you can generate additional revenue, but predominantly is it also, fly control service offers a complete type of sanitary type control within your facility.
Thanks, Bruce. Another question is asking, what are the key considerations for placing ILTs in different zones, such as exterior areas, entry points, and product sensitive areas?
Well, the key areas, like I said earlier in the presentation, are where the insect light trap is going to be seen. You got to place them in areas where, if you think of yourself, if you're a fly flying around, and where are you going to see things? You're going to be searching for food. You're going to be searching for areas to land, that type of thing. So the key areas is, number one, the fly light has to be very visible. Don't place it behind pallets, pallet racking, that type of areas. Mm-hmm. Also, place it in areas where you're going to have intercept points, where the fly is going to down a corridor as a door. Well, obviously he's detecting some type of airflow in that corridor. if you place fly lights adjacent to that door, whether it be on the front side or even on the back side of it, is going to be good areas for that. So the key is making the fly lights kind of seen on an installation.
Gotcha. Here's a question that's asking, how should ILTs be strategically placed within a facility to maximize their effectiveness?
Well, they should be placed, anywhere from, like I said, 50 feet apart. If you have a room that is, say, 100 by 200 that you have was your main processing area, well, first off, place that insect light trap within 15 to 20 feet of the large overhead doors where the fork trucks or anybody's going through that door. Place another one on the opposite side of the room as intercept points, and in an area of 100 to 200 square foot area, I'd say 2 to 3 would be ample in that area. Pretty much, like I said earlier, think of yourself as you're flying around a room, and are you going to intercept an insect light trap before you think about going to a food source?
All right, and it looks like we have one more question here, and that's asking, what are the two major types of ILTs used for trapping insects, and in what situations might each be preferable?
Well, the two styles are adhesive boards and electric grids. And the adhesive boards are, like in today's day, 95% of the insect light traps that are sold or used are the adhesive types. And those can be used in areas such as food processing, open food areas, back kitchens, restaurants, pretty much any place where you have an open food. The electric grids are typically used where there's no risk of any contamination from the so-called exploding insects, areas such as warehouses, back doors, loading docks, that type of thing.
All right, Bruce, well, it looks like you've answered all the questions that have come through in the chat. And so with that, I want to thank you, Bruce, and everyone for attending today's webinar. Like I mentioned earlier, later today, you'll receive a follow-up email with a recording of today's session. On behalf of our speaker and Viserys, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.